Welcome to the latest edition of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Ecosystem Interviews in partnership with Proxbook.
There are customers now buying and deploying 100,000 beacons and deploying them, across the entire country. We have this very strong vision that the future of software is not about designing apps for the phones or watches or tablets. So like now beacon will last 9-10 years, and 10 years is a time span that you don't have to optimize for more than that. We are extremely excited about the physical web. That in the museum, experience is the only product. By integrating beacons with the Google Play app that is being distributed more than 1 billion users, so it's like it's a groundbreaking innovation by Google, and they did a great job.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Ecosystem Interviews in partnership with Proxbook. My name is Steve Statler of Statler Consulting, and this is a Northern European, Central European edition of our guide. We're using Estonian technology for the connection. We're using Skype to talk to the CEO of Estimote. Estimote are just huge in the ecosystem, or the Bluetooth beacon ecosystem proximity market. But for people that don't know you, maybe you can just kick this session off and give us a brief introduction into what you do.
Absolutely. So Estimote is a company that we founded in 2012, and we always had that vision that there's some change going on into the how people build software, how they develop mobile apps, how they combine offline and online. So Estimote is basically a technology company that is trying to enable developers, and especially mobile developers, to build this new type of magical experiences in a physical environment. So we help them providing everything they need, which is beacon technology, indoor location algorithm, SDKs. There's also a vibrant community we're building around, and our objective is very, very simple. We just want to push things forward. We want to enable most different experiences, all verticals, on top of location and sensors and other technologies.
Very good. So it's more than just about beacons.
Oh yeah, it's definitely we would say it's about changing the way the developers and designers build and test and deploy these new type of experiences. So we have this very strong vision that the future of software is not about designing apps for the phones or watches or tablets. The future of software is how to build apps and install them on top of physical world, on top of one retail store, and then distributing the same app, the same experience into many retail stores, or maybe one airport, and running that app, that experience on many airports. So it's a kind of something we call an operating system for the physical worlds, which consists of many layers, and it's a hardware layer. There's like a software layer, standards. There is an entire security layer and management and different components. So it's way beyond beacons.
Very good, and I really like that reference. I've heard you make it before to the fact that you're providing an operating system, because I think that's right on, and people really need to look at their approach. Developers, venues need to think about, we're choosing an operating system. It's like the old days when you had to say, well, am I going to go for Windows or OS2 or whatever the choices were? And it's a commitment.
Definitely, and also, at the end of the day, all these amazing pioneers and innovative people, they just want to build their domain-specific applications and solve their domain-specific problems. They just don't want to play with RSSI signal and X and Y position. The same way developers, they don't care about garbage collector or memory management. They just want to have an abstract layers, APIs, and they just want to build their apps, right? So this is how we think about that, and we're trying to solve many difficult problems for developers. So it's easier and faster to build these new type of, proximity-based apps. When it comes to the battery life and beacons, being disposed, so there are several reasons of our philosophy behind it. So one very strong reason is that if you think deeply about the physical world, it's a complex place, right? It costs a lot to move from A to B, and also it requires a lot of efforts and energy. So when we are talking to large retailers, the one that have, for example, 2,000 locations in entire country, it's just impossible for them to maintain these beacons over time and replacing batteries or actually manipulating, because cost of that operation would be way higher than actually cost of the initial installation, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why we've never designed beacons where you can replace the battery, because we did the opposite way. We have challenged and inspired our engineers to keep innovating with the power management and keep adding different sensors and keep saving energy and because this is the solution we believe in. And also we all need to realize that wireless technologies, and especially Bluetooth Low Energy, it does follow Moore's law, and every 18 months there is an improvement by the factor of 2. So Nordic, the company we work with, a few years ago, they have released their first chip, the NRF51, and 18 months later, they released another revision, which is, the power efficiency is multiplied by 2, which basically means that beacons that in the past could last 3 years, now the same beacon can last 6 years. And we expect that in 18 months, they're going to do it again. So like now beacon will last 9, 10 years. And 10 years is a time span that you don't have to optimize for more than that. Because, in 10 years, there will be completely different technology in our pocket. And, who knows what that's going to be. So there's no reason to optimize for more.
The new beacons that have come out, the location beacons versus the proximity beacons, they pretty much look very similar, do they, to the original beacons? I know that you can have these general purpose input-output connectors on them so that you can connect them to devices. But other than the different colors, would I see any difference in the old ones and the new ones?
Well, from outside, there's not that much difference. So there are some form factor improvements. So we have learned a lot when we launched our proximity beacons. More than 2 years ago, we have learned a lot from the community. So we have improved the adhesive layer, and now it's like a really strong tape. And it's also the tape itself is very intelligent. So we've noticed that people, before they deploy beacons into the final environment, they very often test different configuration, different setup. So the tape we have invented is, if you use it within the first 45 minutes, you can just remove it, just replace it, reposition freely. But after 45 minutes, it's gonna be permanent and it's gonna stay there forever, right?
Okay.
So it's like we really spend a lot of time there, and also the form factor itself being a little bit optimized. Those hackers and pioneers who want to get inside, it's now much easier actually to get inside. You don't have to cut the silicon skin anymore.
Yeah.
You can just open it and you can get inside and just see our beautiful design PCB. Yeah. And so from the outside, there are not that many differences. They're slightly bigger, but of course inside they are like a completely new generation of the hardware and the software. So first of all, we have completely redesigned the firmware that the beacons are using. So in the past, it was only possible to advertise either iBeacon packet or Eddystone with, for example, physical web. With the new beacons, you can simultaneously broadcast as many packets as you want. Of course, there are some limitations to that, but if you are building both Android and iOS experiences, you don't have to install multiple beacons. You just install location beacons, and you can keep advertising physical web, one iBeacon, another iBeacon. And also, what's really cool about the new firmware is that you can change the range of these packets. So one beacon can broadcast long-range packet and short-range packet. So if you are building some experiences that you want to trigger some message on a close proximity or very far away, you can do it with just one beacon. So like these packets that can have not only different type, but also different range. So it's really, really cool. And of course, there's a lot of other innovations. So from the hardware perspective, they have ambient light sensor. So we are able to turn off the radio when it's dark and like people are not there anyway, right? They have magnetometer. Very often when you install beacons, some people attach them to metal, objects, walls. So we just want to be clear. And we want to know how the metal environment will influence the antenna and the propagation signal. They also have, they also have motion sensor. They have temperature sensor. So they're really sophisticated. And also from the hardware perspective, like you mentioned, there is this general input and output slot that enable hackers to connect beacon to any device or any object. And this is fascinating because in the beginning, it was you and your apps, changing or like changing the UI or sending you messages whenever you approach different objects. But with the GPIO, you can beaconify any physical device. So if you connect your beacon to your fridge or your laundry or your washing machine, you can either influence that machine by approaching it. So, for example, you can turn it on and turn it off only when you stand in front of it, or you can do it the other way. So you can take some data from the machine. For example, from the washing machine, you can take the status of your laundry and you can broadcast it so that your phone will be aware of these data. So we believe that this is going to open another layer of innovation in the proximity industry, where we will see truly magical experiences when doors will open just by you approaching them, or some other fascinating concepts.
So just to clarify, because traditionally with beacons, it's a one-way thing. It's a lighthouse, it's broadcasting out. But you've now got the beacon able to have this kind of dialogue with other hardware. But and traditionally when beacons have been controlling like vending machines, it's the app on the phone that goes through the cloud and it says, oh, that's beacon 1. That means it's vending machine number 1. I'm going to talk to that. But now this paradigm, I'm actually establishing a connection with the beacon and getting that to control the vending machine. Is that the way it works?
Exactly. So beacon itself, it has several input/output. You can it's purely software defined, so you can decide whether it's an input or output. And whenever you connect an object to that physical beacon, so you need to connect it physically. Then you will be able, over the Bluetooth and using the SDK, manipulate and influence the physical object. So there is a connection, and it's without Wi-Fi in the cloud. It's just basically like object, like machine to machine connection. So it's really, really cool.
So we could be underground, and you can still establish that connection between the phone and the beacon, and that. But so how many devices can you talk to with a GPIO connector? I haven't noticed a lot of them on the back of my fridge, but I've got an old fridge, so.
Well, so the GPIO connector is something that is actually there to inspire hackers and, Arduino or Raspberry Pi community, because this is the way they used to connect different objects to these microcontrollers. So you can actually connect your little, like your lamp or your garage door through the GPIO a very, very simple way. But of course, our development kits are there to inspire. And of course, if you want to build like a serious integration, you just need to, you can contact us and we'll give you the firmware, we'll give you the software. So you will be able to beaconify your fridge, your car, or whatever you're building. So the GPIO is mostly for the prototyping. So it's something you can, within a hackathon, within a few hours, you can very quickly put together a prototype, show it to your coworkers or your customer, and then once they like the experience, you can move it to the next level, just integrating with the software and the chip and the firmware.
So this is an important thing. So really, the beacon, the colorful beacons we're buying are like the prototyping platform, but for a production beacon that's embedded in an appliance, then what you expect is whoever's making the appliance is going to license your software, firmware, embed it into that appliance. How many companies are actually doing that now?
Well, so you're right. When it comes to the developers, our development kits are designed to inspire and also to help them quickly put together something that they can pitch internally, right? And we don't envision these colorful beacons attached to your fridge or like a garage door. But you are right. The objective for our company is to understand what are the applications, what are the use cases, and how we can help to scale it with our fleet management software, with the security components, and with APIs, and so on, so on. And there are many companies already doing that. So we have, for example, one company in Norway. It's a furniture company. They design beautiful furniture, chairs, and sofas, and they are integrating our beacons and actually stickers with their objects during the manufacturing process. So when you're actually buying a chair from this company, it is already beaconified, and there's a companion app, and that companion app can sense how often you sit, whether you move or not. It can push a notification when there's like a new product available. So this is fascinating on many different levels, because in a showroom environment, it is as simple as you approaching that chair and taking a phone to just see the details about it and the price and the video. But when you take it home, you will, the manufacturer will have a new type of data of the usage of this object, where it is located at your home, how often you use it, how many people, what they do. So we're really excited to see, and there's more. There are people integrating beacons with, with suitcases and with cars and many different applications. We've seen everything.
How many beacons are people buying these days? How many beacons have you sold?
That's a great question. So, first of all, the business is great, and we see, a lot of adoption, and 2 years ago, we've seen lots of experimentation. So this was mostly individual development kits and like 3-6 beacons being, deployed, and just maybe a small pilot. But over time, we see more and more large-scale deployments. So there are customers now buying and deploying 100,000 beacons and deploying them, across the entire country, whether it's US or it's Europe. And of course, we all need to realize, and that's like, there's some confusion on the market about iBeacon and beacons in general. So, when Apple announced iBeacon and when they put this I in front of this product, everyone thought, oh my God, it's a finished product. I just deploy it and I will have more customers or I will have data, right? And it doesn't work like this. And it's iBeacon is just a standard. And Apple initially, they didn't tell people what to build and what are the use cases and how to scale it, how to secure it. So companies like Estimote had to build it. right? So it took us a while to build this entire stack, the cloud and the management and the security and all these APIs. So that's like one aspect. And also another aspect and another confusion is that the value creation is actually through mobile experience, because this is how consumers interact with the physical space.
Right.
They all have mobile phones, and when they visit Guggenheim Museum in New York, or when they visit FC Barcelona Stadium, so both are our customers, they can interact with the physical space in a new completely way, but they do it through the mobile app. And we all know that building mobile apps is hard and it takes time.
Yes.
Right? And there's still a lot of challenges because it's an Android or different versions, different screens, and Bluetooth is not enabled, and different chips and different antennas. So that's why the market sentiment and the market expectation was, oh my God, it's going to be beacons everywhere and it's going to change everything. Well, no, I mean it's a process. And that is why we're so much bullish on developers, and we troubleshoot, we help them, we inspire, we spend a lot of time on hackathons, answer questions on Stack Overflow and Twitter, because we know it's a process, and our job as a company is not only to inspire what to build and what are the great use cases, but also how to deploy at scale. And I'm telling you, deploying 100,000 beacons in the entire country is an operation itself. It does require sophisticated software to calibrate these beacons, to map them, to secure them, and to also manage the content behind them. So yeah, we are really excited, and there are as a company we are producing millions of these.
So you're making millions of beacons, and what would you say the split is between developers and that production? Because I think investors, I'm sure your investors and just everyone that's looking at the market is trying to figure out where is it in the Jeffrey Moore crossing the chasm thing. And certainly it's been innovators and early adopters. And it sounds like there's a few folks that are now getting into production and deployment. But what's the ratio, would you say, between the number of developers who are just prototyping and the production usage?
Yeah, so it's a very standard funnel. It's a funnel that people are excited about, and there's like a lot of trials and proof of concept going on. But then of course a little bit less people actually build something that is meaningful and it delivers value, and then even less they actually deploy, and then even less they're able to distribute, because that's another challenge, because it's not only about deploying beacons and building the app, how to make sure that consumers will actually have the app, right? How to distribute that application, whether you should do it with partners or whether you should use some cool technologies from Google that they just announced that are helping to solve that problem. So it's a funnel, and of course our objective is to kind of make sure that more and more people go through that funnel, and we push them to the next stage, to the next level, and just trying to figure out what are the problems, and we will fixing these problems on the fly.
Makes sense. So if we look at, say, one of the first national deployments was Apple when they deployed the gimbal beacons, which wasn't a fantastic user experience. I still see the beacons there, but it's like you're hardly aware of them, and I don't think they're really making a big difference. But that was a milestone. And then, of course, you had like Shopkick who were going, and they did the national deployment with some brands, but they're still kind of segueing from the audio to the physical beacon. Have you got a customer who sounds like they've bought 100,000 beacons? Have they actually deployed them? Do we have national deployments at a tier 1 retailer where they're not just one check-in beacon at the door, but they've got a beacon in every department? Does that exist yet in the market?
Yeah, there are many, and there are some we can talk about. There are some they're still work in progress, and it's such a transforming experience that they probably want to control their own story. Yeah. But what we try to understand when it comes to the market is that what are the verticals that can benefit from this technology. So one, of course, you're mentioning retail is like one vertical, but there are also others. So there are airports and there are museums and there are sports arenas and smart workplaces, and I will surprise you, because if you ask a question which vertical is actually running the fastest and which is deploying,
I was going to ask that. That's good.
Yeah, I will surprise you, because I had no clue. 2 years ago or like 3 years ago, I thought that museums, such a conservative places, will be the last to actually enter the game. But what happened is actually they are first to come. They are first to deploy these and build these amazing experiences. So, next time you're in New York, I encourage you to visit Guggenheim Museum. They did an amazing job and created both Android and iOS app. So whenever you approach different objects and sculptures or paintings in the museum, you will immediately see brilliant content, contextual, telling you the story from the author of the sculpture, showing, playing an interview, and it's like really responsive. It's really consistent experience. Well done, well done. I really encourage people to visit the Guggenheim Museum, and also Brooklyn's museum in New York. They also did an amazing job reinventing the way museum can engage with the visitors. So what they did, they deployed beacons in his exhibition hall, and also they set up a small team of real people, like historians and like curators, and that team is actually sitting backstage, and they know where you are in the museum, and because of the app, you can ask them anything about the particular sculpture or particular the painting, and it's not it's not AI, it's not a bot. People hate talking to bots. It's a human being, and you have new way of interacting with the museum. You can ask a question, they will guide you because they know where you are. It's a really fascinating experience, and they did an amazing job. And it does work. You can go there, download the app, and you can really engage with a real human being, and also learn more about the products and place and the history, and it's fascinating. So we see more museums. There are so many museums. There is a in Finland a museum around like some like toys and kids. There are Angry Birds store, and there is a London National Museum of Science. There is a
San Diego Museum of Art has got your beacons, but they've hidden them. It's like you're an art museum, you've hidden this thing, and I do, props to them for actually doing it, and I think the experience is good.
Yeah, but we believe that the entire retail and other industries, they should be actually inspired of what museums are doing. And we've been thinking, why museums are so progressive these days. And then we ended up with one conclusion, that in the museum, experience is the only product, right?
Yes.
And beacons are awesome to improve that experience. And we believe that retailers and brands, they should be really inspired what museums did, because they're great at delivering fascinating experiences in a physical world.
Well, and I think, sorry to interrupt, but I think that extends to like the sports stadia. We've seen a lot of usage there because you're competing with TV. That's a tough competition, the TV and the sofa. So you've got to bring the physical to life. And so we've seen that. What about other verticals? Are you... I think airports is obviously another one which has got a lot of press.
Yeah, so we work with a number of airports, and definitely there's a lot of going on trying to reinvent the passenger experience, and there's massive potential there. So we're working with the Qatar Airlines. We've been working with EasyJet and Virgin and in Manchester Airport, and many airlines. And definitely they are exploring both the indoor location. They're exploring digital signage, personalizing the content based on who you are. They are They also trying to solve real problems, because that's the kind of the hardest part of beacons. Because sometimes people think, oh, I'm gonna send coupon, or like, oh, really? Is that is that solving anything?
Yeah.
So there's one European airline, and they approached us and they said, listen, we have a very specific problem. This percentage of passengers, they end up on the wrong terminal in the wrong gate. They very often miss their flight. Our flights are delayed. We need to call them. It costs a lot. So let's just solve it, right? So we said, yeah, it's very simple. Just put beacons each gate, each terminal, and people have already, British Airways, Lufthansa, and Virgin America apps in their pockets anyway. So whenever you arrive at the wrong gate, wrong terminal, they're gonna tell you, hey, Jacob, this is actually wrong gate. Go to this gate, and by the way, there's like duty-free shopping. So yeah, it does solve real problem, and we strongly encourage our customers to build these type of experiences, because one thing is like PR and being the first to build something, but another is actually to optimize and create this amazing experience.
That is a great application. And what about enterprise applications, helping your workforce be more efficient? Are you seeing anything there?
Yeah, so we see a very strong trend in something we call smart workplace. So, especially these days, different companies are trying to reinvent and reimagine how actually people collaborate in a physical, office, and there's a lot of it going on with like Slack and other enterprise software, and we seen amazing innovations there. So some are as simple as replacing badges and NFC with beacons and apps. So basically, as soon as you have your corporate app, the doors are open, right? So there's no need for badge and swiping card just to enter the building. So like a lot of there. So basically access control. We also see a lot of optimization around conference room experience. And you know that inside every large organization, conference room is like people constantly fighting who has booked what and where is available and where they are. And so we've seen many companies trying to solve that problem with beacons and software. So we've seen amazing companies, they detect when you entered the conference room, it's immediately booked for you. When you left, it's available, right? We also seen companies innovating, pushing agenda. When you enter the meeting, the agenda is being pushed, or some rules. Maybe there are some rules behind the meeting, or when you finish the meeting, they will remind you about follow up. They will also report who has met different, who has met which team. So these are like some applications, and of course, onboarding, right? So it's something that at office you do very often. You have constantly new team members, and you want to tell them, where is tea, where is kitchen, how to use the printer, and where is different team located, who they are. So we see a lot of applications around that space as well. And also very simple apps like, assets tracking, where is this projector, or where is my coworker, which floor they are today. So yeah, we are extremely bullish on the workplace, and we also believe that if you think deeply what Microsoft did initially with PC and Windows, it was actually Office applications that took off initially with the word processing and Excel. So we also expect that Office might be a good territory for initial use cases of beacons.
What about healthcare? I mean, talk about place where money is spent. Any use cases that you're seeing in healthcare that should inspire people?
Yeah, so healthcare has so much potential, and we see many great companies innovating. So there are companies, they leverage location technologies and beacons to locate staff and doctors in the space, and we also see companies, especially here in the US, where they are trying to very precisely measure the usage of different machines, like ultrasonograph and some other machines, because of the insurance costs. There are some companies that are also, especially for the healthcare of senior people, they're trying to build some geofences and be notified whenever the patient is actually moving outside desired zone of safety. There are also some amazing use cases where there are geofences creating in conference rooms, and doctors, they can access on iPads particular information only in a specific place, specific time. When they leave their room, the information will be gone. So we see fascinating applications. The only challenge with healthcare is that, you know, it's not on. It takes time. So like, you know, like retailers, they are still retailers. They're still trying to figure it out. Their technology competences. They are building tech talent. They are investing into mobile teams. And the same is like in the healthcare, because, you know, historically they don't have that talent, and they need to kind of bring agencies, and it takes time. And also, in addition, healthcare it's more regulated, and more restrictions on interference with other devices. So there's some amazing potential, but it just takes time, and there are some, you know, challenges, you know, these companies, they need to solve.
A lot less regulation in museums, I guess.
Exactly.
All right. Well, so let's talk a bit about standards. There's just been so much happening with Google, and are you at Google I/O at the moment? Did we?
Yes. This week we are at Google I/O, and we've been absolutely, you know, blown away by, you know, the progress that Google made as a company in terms of like beacons and proximity. So if you want, I can just quickly comment, you know, what we have learned yesterday. So there are like two amazing features that are coming for every, you know, beacon innovator. So the first feature is that in the past, in order to deliver amazing experience to the consumer, that consumer had to download an app ahead. Right. So for example, if you are a Target customer, you have to download Target app, you go to Target, and then your app will benefit of, you know, of the presence of beacons. But if you don't have a Target app, you know, nothing can be achieved. You know, Target cannot collect data, and you cannot also experience these magical experiences. So Google is trying to solve it with Nearby API. So basically, it will be possible for the phone to receive notifications from beacons even if you don't have an app installed, and they do it by integrating beacons with the Google Play app that, you know, is being distributed, you know, more than 1 billion users. So when you, for example, enter Guggenheim Museum in New York and you don't have the app, Google Play app will surface the information, and you will be actually able to just push one button and download that app. So that's one an amazing kind of innovation that is like really will help the beacons and all these proximity experiences to spread out. And another is something they call instant app downloads or experiences. So basically, Google has changed a little bit the architecture of Android. So now you don't have to download the app in order to experience it. So it sounds like magic, but it does work. So basically, let's just imagine that I want to send you a link to the Yelp restaurant, review. So basically, if I do it through Messenger, in the past you had to download the Yelp app, open the app, navigate to that place. So now, when you hit the link I send you, the Yelp app will open, and that particular experience, native experience, will be delivered to you despite the fact that you don't have the Yelp app. So I don't know how they do it, whether they download some elements of the app in the background, but it's amazing. So it's basically blending this, web and native in a completely new way. So if we combine it with physical web, this is another initiative by Google where beacons can actually broadcast URLs, then we will end up in a completely new world where you enter museum or enter the park meter and approach the park meter or enter an airport gate, and you will be able to experience a micro experience that might consist of transaction, might consist of content, without the need of downloading an application. So it's like it's a groundbreaking innovation by Google, and they did a great job.
Very cool. I'm excited, and my dog Fairbanks is excited as well. You may have heard him in the background. So we've got Scott Jensen from Google coming on in a couple of weeks to talk about latest on physical web, but I'd love to get your perspective on how quickly you think people are going to get used to browsing the physical web. I believe in it, but I just worry about whether people are going to figure out that they can browse these URLs that are coming from beacons.
Well, so physical web is another initiative from Google that been well designed and well thought. So basically, what they did initially, they created this module, this kind of scanner that's like scanning all these physical web beacons. And in the beginning, it was just a standalone app. There wasn't that much value. But what they did, they integrated that module with Chrome, which is another property that Google has with more than 1 billion users, right? And also that module is now being integrated not only with by the Chrome browser, but by the Opera browser and some other browsers. So we see, again, apps that are installed, that are pre-installed by default, such as Chrome, that they are, again, able to pick up the signal from beacons and also navigate you to either the website, either the app. And a really cool initiative is something that's called Web Bluetooth. And this is the browser that is capable of opening the website and through the JavaScript and through the HTML actually talking to beacons. So this is amazing. So if you have GPIO beacons connected to your garage door, there is no need for an app anymore, because there could be a little website that can just open when you approach it. You push a button, and through the JavaScript, it will trigger the garage door to be open. So we are extremely excited about the physical web, and of course, it's not a technology challenge. It's more like a user experience and UI challenge. How people will find these messages and these notifications, and Google did a great job. So this is something that's called, I think, like lower priority message. So basically, it's not buzzing. You just need to swipe down to see what's possible. So when you approach Park Meter, you just swipe down and you see it's there. You can hit and pay. So they did a really great job designing it from the user experience perspective. And also, we need to remember that the physical web is not only the scanner, but it's also centralized cloud-based technology, which means all these URLs, before they will be presented in the Chrome, they actually need to be resolved by the Google Cloud or Google technology. And we know that Google is great at building relevant, links and content. So hopefully this is also prevent, from spammers, spamming people with, with non-relevant content. So we are extremely excited, and then we see we're looking forward to seeing the sessions by Scott and other Google team members today. And it sounds that this technology and beacons are more and more available for consumers to interact with.
Very good. Well, Jakub, we're going to have to wrap up. We could easily do another hour, but I'm just going to thank you for doing a marvelous job. Great insight into the background to your company that's done so much very cool work. And
awesome. I just want to say one last thing, because this is like a really new cool product that we're actually announcing actually today. So what you can see I have on my body today, it's actually a T-shirt with like a built-in physical web beacon in it.
Interesting.
So basically, today, during the Google I.O., we are announcing that for the developers and in the community, there will be available an app that you can just download from the Google Play, and that app will enable you to configure what kind of URL you want to broadcast as a human body. Right? So you can set up your GitHub account, you can set up your LinkedIn profile, and suddenly all the developers or all the people around you that have Chrome, they will be able to actually see who you are, and they will be able to engage with your profile. So as developers, they love T-shirts, so now they will be able actually to to interact with your physical web URLs, and since we are running this interview, anyone who is watching, just tweet us, just reach out to us on Twitter, and we'll just send you some.
Wonderful. That's a great offer. So they should tweet Estimote and mention.
Yeah. They should tweet. We have like a limited batch, so first come, first serve. But anyone who will mention us, we'll be more than happy to send you some, so you can try. You can set up your different whatever you want. If you want like a Tinder profile, that's fine. Just go be creative.
Very good. Well, Jakub, thanks for that generous offer. Thanks for being a great guest, and thanks everyone for tuning in to this co-production with our friends at Proxbook and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Ecosystem. We're having a lot of fun here. Hopefully you're finding it interesting. Jakub, thanks again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
We'll take a break from the easy questions. I'm going to ask you a very, very difficult question now. So you're going up to the International Space Station. You're going to be on there for a year, and there's only enough bandwidth to send 3 albums for you to listen to for that year. What are the 3 albums you're going to take onto the ISS?
Well, first of all, I would love to get there somehow. So, hopefully in the future it will be possible. And the great story is that we've seen in our database many orders coming from NASA. So probably beacons are already in this space anyway, right? So yeah, when it comes to the music, to be honest with you, I'm more like a visual person. So my visual senses are way more sophisticated than the way I listen to the music. So I'm not like a music, I'm not a good person to talk about music at all. But when I watched the Martian movie, and I've seen how it is to be alone on another planet, I thought, well, that's a good idea actually to listen to the music composed on Earth, just to kind of give you that atmosphere of Earth. So I don't know. I would go maybe with Queen or maybe with Elvis Presley. I'm not a good music guy.
Okay, we've got Queen, we've got Elvis Presley, and you've got room for one more, but maybe we'll come back to that later.